ಗಜಮುಖ ವಂದಿಸುವೆ ಕರುಣಿಸಿ ಕಾಯೋ, ಗಜಮುಖ ವಂದಿಸುವೆ ಕರುಣಿಸಿ ಕಾಯೋ. ಓ ನೀಲಕಂಠನ ಸೂತ ಬಾಲಗಣೇಶನೇ, ನೀಲಕಂಠನ ಸೂತ ಬಾಲ ಗಣೇಶನೇ, ಬಾರಿ ಬಾರಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಜನೆ ಮಾಡುವೆನಯ್ಯ. ನೀಲಕಂಠನ ಸೂತ ಬಾಲ ಗಣೇಶನೇ, ಬಾರಿ ಬಾರಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಜನೆ ಮಾಡುವೆನಯ್ಯ. ಗಜಮುಖ ವಂದಿಸುವೆ ಕರುಣಿಸಿ ಕಾಯೋ, ಗಜಮುಖ ವಂದಿಸುವೆ ಕರುಣಿಸಿ ಕಾಯೋ, ಗಜಮುಖ ವಂದಿಸುವೆ ಕರುಣಿಸಿ ಕಾಯೋ. ಓ
We all know that Canara Engineering College, in fact, Canara group of institutions are known for delivering quality education at affordable cost. And we will continue to do so. But in the recent years, for our survival as well as growth, it's become absolutely necessary to basically excel in each and every verticals that we deal with. Hence the title, Embarking on a Journey Towards Excellence. On this occasion, we have with us Mr. Siddharth Pai, also popularly called as Sid among his friend circle. Mr. Siddharth Pai holds a MBA in Finance and MS in Applied Economics from the University of Rochester, as well as a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Bangalore University, for which he was selected under the National Merit Scholarship Scheme. He was voted as the student president of the student union during his college days. Mr. Siddharth Pai is a venture capital fund manager for deep science and deep technology startups with social impact. His experience in technology services and M&A, that is merger and acquisition transaction, is immense. He has completed over 12 billion in transaction values. He writes regularly for the Mint newspaper, which has a daily circulation of nearly 5 lakh copies in print, and also is been published online at livemint.com. He has an international experience of 3 decades and has spent 15 years working in United States and Europe before moving on to India in the year 2002. Until the later half of 2015, he was partner president of TPI/ISG Asia Pacific region, a member of executive board, and also the chief strategy officer. Prior to ISG, he held senior executive roles in IBM and KPMG Consulting in America, Asia Pacific, as well as Europe. As executive in charge of IBM communication sector consulting businesses in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, he held overall responsibility of nearly 29 regions. Finally, the one point that makes me feel Canara Engineering College is blessed today is that Mr. Ammembal Siddharth Pai is also the great grandson of our beloved founder, Sri Ammembal Subbarao Pai. Welcome to you, sir. It's really an honor. We also have with us Pradeep G. Pai, the Managing Director of Hangyo Ice Cream Private Limited. I take this opportunity to acknowledge Mr. Pradeep G. Pai's contribution and his well wishes that he has offered not only for Canara Engineering College, but the entire Canara group of institutions, whether may it be during the admissions or any student who has any financial crunch, we normally look towards him for assistance. And every time he has never said no. He has done whatever best he could under his capacity. Recently, I was also made aware that he is a very key player in basically getting a ladies' school or a college in Bhatkal. This was his one of his dream projects because it was taken up because at that point of time, there was a lot of hardship faced by especially the GSB students, the female students in Bhatkal, because there was no institution there which had a very safe and a very working studying environment for these girl students, especially the GSB community. So it was recently brought to my notice, and I would like to acknowledge that contribution, his philanthropic contribution towards the community as well. Welcome to you, sir. We are also being blessed by the gracious presence of our management members. I take this opportunity to welcome the Honorary Secretary, also our own correspondent, Mr. Rangnath Bhatt. I also welcome the governing body members of Kannada High School Association, T. Gopal Krishna Shanai sir, Mr. Suresh Kamath, Mr. Naresh Shanai, and K. Shivanand Shanai. Welcome to you all. Without taking much of a time, let us make the best of the time that we have with Siddharth Bhai.
Good morning to all of you. I must acknowledge that I'm very honored to be here. Thanks to Mr. Pradeep Pai and his generous invitation. It's not often that one gets to walk in the footsteps of one's forefathers. And I can certainly tell you that when I compare whatever it is that I may have achieved in my lifetime, I am now about the age of what Ammembal Siddharth Pai was when he passed away. And when I look at also what my grandfather achieved, my father achieved, and so forth, and I look at myself, it's difficult to feel that I deserve any honor at all for having to, belonging to such a family. And the reason I say that is the vision and the level of understanding that all these people had, and which is shared by your managing committee and like people like Mr. Pradeep Pai here, far exceeds anything that I have been ever been able to accomplish. So I want to put that on record, for your consumption. But we are here today to talk about a couple of different things. I had a discussion with Shri Pradeep Pai, as well as with a very close friend of mine, gentleman by the name T.V. Mohandas Pai, whom you may have also heard of. And they were talking about Canara Engineering College in particular, and what the college has achieved, what the college would continue to like to achieve, and some areas where it wants to focus a little bit more in order to be able to continually achieve there as well. I have not prepared any remarks for today. I do not have a prepared speech, but I will just try in a few words to lay out what may be a point of vision for you to consider. And all these discussions are not specifically around any one area of technology or engineering. These discussions are around the capacity to build students with the ability to be effective and useful wherever they may find themselves. What we find today, interestingly enough, is that there is a lot of focus given to information technology. I have spent more than 30 years in information technology as a career. Interestingly enough, I did not originally go and get myself a computer degree. In the 1980s, it was considered very unusual to do so. About the only places that had a computer engineering, computer science degree were the IITs. And there was no true computer science yet available in the other universities, including Bangalore University, where I studied. There were one or two. My wife, who also went to Bangalore University, interestingly took electronics and telecommunications engineering, not computer engineering, because at that time it had not yet gained prominence. I'm talking about the 1980s, early 1980s. Because India was not yet a computer superpower. And we were not in a position where it made sense, because there was no question of really having a worthwhile career in India if you were a computer technologist. Yes, if you got in, you did it. Obviously, everybody who went to IIT were all export quality. So the only reason they went to IIT was so that they could step on the plane immediately after and go off to America or some other place like that, which they were doing at that point in time. those things changed. Those things changed for 2 or 3 reasons. I'm going to share a little bit about computer science and then move into other areas of technology, because having worked in that field, there are some observations that I can make that I think could be useful. So what happened, I'll just give a little bit of history. What happened was, I went to America myself as a student. And when I went, there was no question of getting what was called an H1 degree, which was a degree for you to be able to work there. You went as a student. You went either on an F1 degree or a F1 visa or a J1 visa. These were either as a student or as an exchange visitor. You did not go as a worker. Now, in the mid to late 90s, there was a lot of work that the Americans and the British were unwilling to do. Specifically, that was around a problem created by the year 2000. All the computer programs that had been written, interestingly, by IBM programmers, and I used to work for IBM as a very senior executive in those days, had been written with only 2 digits for the last date. So after 99, what comes? Does it go back to 00? And according to the logic of the program, 00 would mean it has gone back to 1900, not 2000. So the work that was required was very drudgery-oriented work, because you had to go in field by field into this very, very large field, meaning computer field, right? Into a very, very large body of computer programming work, and change every single one of those fields from a 2-digit field to a 4-digit field. So it could accommodate 1999 to 2000 rather than 1999 to back to 1900, which would have been the logical extension of what is happening. Now, interestingly, that is where most of our Indian students found work. And suddenly they started arriving in the US without US degrees, without the need to study in the US, going there as students, but coming directly from engineering colleges in India, where they had got themselves a computer science degree, or even sometimes, very often also, mechanical engineering degree, civil engineering degree, chemical engineering degree, you name it. They had got all those degrees. They would take a small course at a place like NIIT, or in those days something called Aptech, and getting some basic capabilities would then start off with an H1 visa, a worker's visa in America, and similar visas in other parts of the globe. That was the original rise. And a place like IBM, where I worked, thought it made no sense because there was a horizon. After year 2000, the horizon fell away. So there was no potential in creating a business unit that would focus solely on that. Even if a business unit was going to be created, it was going to be created in a small area with a small number of people. And the assumption was that as of 1/1/2000, the problem would go away. So I have heard, as a vice president of IBM, my colleagues saying, hey, all these Indians have come now, man, that's okay. You see, just watch by the end of November, December, January of 2000, they will all be B2B. What is B2B? Back to Bangalore. So this was the extent to which KPMG, IBM, DEC, HP, others, all these large companies ignored the problem because they expected that somebody else would take care of it. Now something very interesting happened. See, all these things are also not just a focus of what we try to set our vision to. It is also a question of what the Almighty decides is going to happen. Okay? Or let's call it nature for today is going to happen. Okay? So what happened was that because of pumping of money into this economy, which we're seeing a lot of again today, interestingly enough, there was a bust of the first dot-com bust, as it was called. When the first dot-com era busted, interestingly, there had been a lot of capital investment that had taken place, where companies such as AT&T, Cable and Wireless and others had laid thousands upon thousands of miles of undersea cable for telecommunications purposes, fiber optic cable, all over the world. So from the US to Europe, Europe to India, India across the Pacific to other parts, so on and so forth. There were large pipes that had been, the capital expense had been made to put this underwater with the expectation that the internet would grow. But it did not because of this bust. Suddenly, all this dark fiber, as it was at that point in time, because it was not carrying information, it was still dark fiber, became cheaply available. and could be lit, which is what our companies decided was the right thing to do. So they paid for the lighting up of that cable so that the work could be moved to the worker. So despite having come back to Bangalore, as in a matter of speaking, of course, they went back to Chennai also, Calcutta also, Bombay also, so on and so forth, but largely Bangalore. When they came back to Bangalore, they could do the same work that they used to actually sit alongside the Americans or sit alongside the British or sit alongside the Australians and do by sitting here in our own country. The reason I recount all of this is, in those days, you did not need to be a computer engineer to be effective as a technologist. I still hold that it is not required. I am, after all, a BCom. Now, I do know how to write code. I am a mathematician. I also have an MSc in applied mathematics, which is applied economics. I also have an MBA in finance, so on and so forth. That's aside. I did not train, however, as a computer engineer. But if a man like me can have a 30-year career in technology, then so can anybody who is given a good engineering education in a place like Canara College, Canara Engineering College. And I think really the vision that needs to be set is about the level of functional thought process that your students can have. When I say functional thought process, I mean something very, very specific. Let me again give an example to make this very clear. This, by the way, is not relevant to you being a computer engineer. It is relevant to you being in any sort of business environment. About 2 years ago, Citibank, whom you have all heard of, made an $800 million payment of a loan that had been taken by Revlon, which is one of its clients, to the creditors. $800 million. When the expectation was only to make an $8 million payment. They have lost the case as of last hearing to get that money back. They made a mistake. Now, who is the ones who made a mistake? There are 3 sets of eyes, otherwise 6 eyes that were looking at this transaction. Remember, this is running on a computer transaction running by automatically based upon some accounts payable or loans, settlement kind of software. 3 eyes, 3 pairs of eyes, 6 eyes, 3 pairs of eyes. One of them was a Citibank manager in America. 2 of them, I can say it in this closed room, were Wipro employees sitting in Bangalore. Now, a Wipro employee looked at the accounts payable note and keyed in keyed in a couple of extra zeros, which they should have been doing in Y2K, not now. But anyway, they keyed in an extra couple of zeros after the 8. And then it was checked by another Wipro employee and then sent to the American, or possibly even an Indian, but just sitting in America, but working for Citibank, who also didn't see it. So now you have a basic failure, and the $800 million payment was made. Now, what is the failure here? Is it a failure of the computer system? No. It is a failure of a business process, a simple business process. Somebody who is an accountant understands that there should be a minimum of a maker, a checker, and an approver. These 3 things are required before anybody writes a check. I'm sure, sir, you'll be facing these sorts of things within your institution as well. Your accounts department, somebody will write the check. It will be sent to somebody so that they will check it. And then you are the final approver who actually signs the check. So 3 pairs of eyes should have seen it by then. One of the 3 should have got the information. What has this got to do with a computer? Nothing. It has got everything to do with understanding what the business process is and how the business process needs to function. So, the theory of what I'm trying to put across is that if we are to create a vision within Canara Engineering College, it should be a vision that understands businesses and business priorities and how they work. Secondarily comes in the application of your area of focus or your area of expertise. If you are a mechanical engineer, great, fantastic, nothing wrong with being a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or whatever. But then the question becomes, how is that knowledge actually applied? If I'm a mechanical engineer, in fact, I'm staying with my cousin who used to be a ship's engineer, who was trained as a mechanical engineer from REC Rourkela. And he spent 30 years on ships, doing all sorts of things. Now, without him understanding what happens on the ship and in different conditions, the last thing that he was doing was North Sea Brent oil between Scotland and the North Sea. Because these people cannot stay on the platforms for more than 15 days, they go mad. So they have to be brought back to the shore. And supplies have to go back and forth. He was managing the entire logistics of several ships going up and down in order to replenish the people who are on the station, bring back whatever oil was required, send in new human beings, and so on and so forth. Now, to have the management capability to do it at that sort of a level, it is not just a mechanical engineering degree that provides you that. There is nothing in the mechanical engineering syllabus that will help you with that. At least to my knowledge. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but I don't think that there is anything that will be. The point I'm trying to make is, if we are to be successful as an institution that is providing education, it has to be an all-round education that is based upon real-world priorities and real-world use cases. It's all very well to know the heat transfer exchange equation. It is all very well to know stochastic calculus. It is all very well to know whatever else you need to know in order to be able to pass the exam. But it is completely insufficient when it comes to actually functioning in the real world. This is my thesis, and this is my humble suggestion that I've got to put in front of you as a faculty, which I believe is everybody here a faculty, right? So please step away. And when you're looking at your syllabus, the syllabus is what the syllabus is, because by definition, some of those syllabi are set by the universities that you belong to, or whichever other higher institution of educational accreditation that you belong to. That within some level can be changed. It will not be changed typically in my little bit of knowledge. Our old universities, I can tell you it is 35 years since I got my BCom degree. I can give you in writing that in those 35 years, nothing has changed in the syllabus. And in the 35 years before that also, nothing changed in the syllabus. So the point is, we cannot look to our university systems and say, oh, Mangalore University should change what it has got. Bangalore University should change what it has got. It is not going to happen there. It is only going to happen at the individual level, in the campuses themselves, by the institutions themselves. Insofar as you take as faculty the interest to teach your students about real-world applications, that makes them that much more effective and that much more sought after by the corporations or the institutions that they are going to work for once they leave your portals over here. So this is the basis upon which I would like to ask you to think. Now there are several other things that can be done, and people like Mr. Pradeep Pai here are extremely capable of doing it. They've built institutions. His institution, despite having so much competition, is an extremely successful institution. If somebody had said, I'm getting into the ice cream business, boss, Amul is there, so-and-so is there, quality is there, that is there, why should he get into the business? Would be the kind of thing that he would have heard. But he has got into the business and become extremely successful. Why? Because of a clear understanding of how a basic business process needs to work. And obviously vision and capability and the grace of the Almighty. But the point is, competition from others should not be something that is stopping us, because we are capable of doing it at the same level. Please don't forget this business of making it as simple as possible for the students to understand from a case study perspective how these things need to be used in the real business space. Please seek to add to your syllabus if required, even if it is just taking case studies from various other institutions that are using it. There are several that are available on the internet. I was just joking with Mr. Pradeep Pai, as a matter of fact. I have just written a book at the request of Penguin called Tech Proof Me. And the idea of the book is, it doesn't matter what you're doing, because technology will keep on changing. You need to become tech proof, just like this roof is waterproof. You need to become tech proof. So in other words, regardless of all changes in technology, you will still be able to go ahead in your career. Doesn't really matter, because technology is moving at warp speed. Today what is available is completely different than what was available 365 days ago. This much I can tell you for sure. So everybody will spout, oh, AI, ML, this, that, all these sorts of words without even understanding what it means. The moment somebody starts using jargon, that is a direct indication that they understand nothing about what they're talking about. Okay? So I would suggest Rather than throwing out the jargon, spend a little bit of time trying to understand what these things are, and in a general way, let them know what's happening. But again, tell them how it's going to work from a practical perspective. Infrastructure-wise, bringing in corporations to actually look at these people and look at your students and interview them, bringing people to give guest lecturers based upon their experiences, all these things will happen. But it rests with you as the faculty to find the real-world cases and the real-world implications of what it is you are teaching in the classroom. If you are teaching a heat transfer exchange equation or stochastic calculus or something like that in the classroom, your students are going to fall asleep. That is if they have not bunked. Okay? So, my humble request to you is spend a little bit of time. The resources are available. The resources are available for you to be able to find things that are of interest for your students to read. This small little thing which I spoke about as a case study, this Citibank thing, there are several like that that are out there that are directly related to whatever it is you may be teaching from a syllabus perspective in the classroom for that particular day. So this is my request. If you have to set a vision, the infrastructure is one stool and one part of it. The hiring machinery and your placement machinery is another part of it, which is a critical part of it also. The third is the educational leg. Without having you providing the educational strength that is required by these students, they will not be able to sit on the stool because it becomes a two-legged stool. And a two-legged stool doesn't stand. So you are the most important leg of the stool. Mr. Pradeep Pai will take care of the infrastructure leg. He will take care of making sure that the right kind of people, we were discussing in the car on the way here, he and your managing committee will take care of making sure that the right kind of employers come here also. But my humble suggestion, humble request to you is, please consider your students when they leave the portals. What is it that they will need to have? If you don't have that own experience, which is possible that you have not all seen, we don't see every single business process. But with today's internet, everything is available for us to read. Find business problems that we know that are out there. See something in the newspaper, you will know what the problems are for today. And we can discuss those in the classrooms. That is what will get them thinking straight. That is what will get them through the interview. And that is what will make them successful in their jobs or their careers as they go forward. Now, I'm aware I've taken a long time. So with these few thousand words, I will stop. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
What exactly do you mean?
So I will try and make it very simple. There are thousands of business processes out there. I spoke about payables, which is one. There are so many others. There are manufacturing, services, all sorts of human resources, all sorts of several different types of things. But I will give you a simple construct, which obviously you can also create by yourself. In fact, one of the things about this construct, it is so simple, you will say, of course, it is what is there, everybody knows that. But that also interestingly also happens with people who get Nobel Prizes in economics. When you read their work, you think, yeah, of course I knew that. But he got the Nobel Prize because he wrote it down first. Okay, so the point I'm trying, so this is very, very simple. I will give you 5 different things to think about. First thing is something called a problem. Please take notes, whoever is taking notes, this is important. Okay, something called a problem. A problem by itself could also be an opportunity, either way. A problem is simply a deviation from expectations. You expect to see 99% accuracy, but you are only seeing 90% accuracy. So therefore, to the extent that there is a deviation from the expectation of 99%, there is a problem. Now, you can't just say that there is a problem and get away with it, because if you are going into a real world situation in a business or anywhere else, you have to be able to prove that there is a problem. So, you have to count that 90% versus that 99%. Otherwise, you cannot say there is a deviation. So, you need evidence, which is the second thing. Problem or opportunity is the first thing. Evidence, ideally numerical evidence, should be given to say that the problem exists or the opportunity exists. It could be outside saying we are at 90%, others are at 99, can we get to 99? Or we are at 99, we are spending too much money to be at 99 because the rest of the world is only at 90. Whatever it is. But it's a deviation from expectations and you need the numbers clearly to tell you and show, because nobody can argue with specific findings, specific evidence. So you need evidence, which is the second piece. The third piece which you need is to understand the cause. Why is it happening? Now, it can be for a variety of reasons. In the example that I gave when I was standing up there, a process existed. Somebody made, somebody checked, somebody approved. So the process existed. And if the process had worked correctly, then this $800 million problem would not be there. What happened was, despite a process being well defined, it was not adhered to. One of those three people was asleep at the switch when they were supposed to have actually looked at those zeros. They did not. In other instances, it could be that the process itself does not exist. So if there is no process, then what are you adhering to? That is the cause. Please keep this cause in mind for a second. I will come back to the cause because it's very, very important. The fourth thing you need is to know what the impact is. Now, in this example that I gave of 99% to 90%, if there is no impact, if nothing is changed, I'm not losing any money, I have not lost any efficiency, I have not lost any sleep, I have not lost any customers, nothing has happened, then there is no impact. By definition, if there is no impact, there is no problem. So you should be able to quantify the impact also, just like you have a quantifiable cause or a cause that you can point to, which nobody can argue with. You should also have an impact which nobody can argue with, which you have arrived at and can show. Because, for instance, again I'll give you an example. It is possible in this world of Six Sigma and so on and so forth, which you teach in your classrooms, it is possible that you have set your median somewhere else, and 99.99999%, 69, okay, which is 1 in 10 lakhs. Only in 1 in 10 lakhs do you have an exception from that. Oh, I have reached Six Sigma, I've got high quality. But if your specifications are wrong in the first place, what that means is that you have created 9,99,999 erroneous things. So you should be able to also point out the impact and the fact that the impact exists. Because no impact, no problem. So that impact, the ability to quantify the impact in terms of units, money, dollars, rupees, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, all these things should be something that you can easily put across. And then the last thing, which is the recommendation. And the recommendation is very, very simple. The recommendation is just an obverse of the cause. The cause is what is creating the problem. If you remove the cause, the problem ceases to exist. Or the opportunity is grabbed, one of the two. So if you don't have a process, please define, document and implement the process so that people follow it. But if you have a process and people are not following it, it is documented, it is defined, but it's not being implemented properly. So please audit it once a week. And people will know, oh, my work is being watched, I've got to do something about it. It is this kind of basic thinking. Problem, I'm just giving you a simple basic. You can have similar constructs. I'm not saying that this is the only construct by any means of imagination. I'm giving you a construct to use. Just as a simple construct that can be used in the classroom or in fact inside any business discussion. Anywhere. Just these things. Problem, evidence, cause, impact, recommendation. These 5 things, if you get all your students to have them burn this into their way of thinking, how they apply themselves in the workplace, I guarantee you they will be more successful than anybody else, any of their competitors, even IITs in the same workplace. As long as they approach everything in this manner. It's a common sense. I hope that answers your question.
Sir,
Sir,
I had a laugh when you said that when somebody throws a jagrans at you, straight away you get to a conclusion that this fellow, there's no stuff in it. Okay, which is very, very true. For a teacher, it's true. But it's very true for a student as well. Because what we see, this is a fundamental problem faced by every teacher now. Because the technology, as you said, is evolving so much. And to a certain extent, even the syllabus, the university tries to revive it. But what is actually happening is the new technologies in the syllabus are taking space of fundamental knowledge which the students need to know. Okay, so even in the industry, what happens is immediately when they get recruited, these things are not required because they work on a tool, and if they have a basic understanding of the tool, that's good enough for the industry. But at a later point of stage, but if you really want to have a quality job, then, and this kind of hiring doesn't happen in masses. It happens very less, and those are a different elite kind of a hiring. That is where the company actually tests their fundamental skills. As you rightly said, they don't buy jargons, or they don't buy the stuff that you write on your resume. They actually ask the heat equation. What does it mean? What does curl mean? What does div mean? This is the kind of things that they ask. So as a teaching fraternity, we are in a sandwich now, because we either have to choose this or we have to choose that, because a syllabus which has nearly 40 hours, give and take, a student has to cover a subject within 7 days.
Yes.
7 days is the time that they give. They need to study eight subjects in nearly around 3 months. So if you boil it down, it doesn't even come to hardly less than 2 weeks. So we are in a crunch now. We are sandwiched between what to basically to build the student from his base loot, or to basically equip him with the new technology and the tools, for which actually I feel that he did not know about this thing. A person can design a HTML page if he knows, he doesn't have to know the basic structure of HTML or CSS as well. Okay, so now if I give that kind of, if I ask my student to design his web page, 99% of them come back within 2 hours with the tool and very nice web page. But how long is this going to sustain? That's the crunch that we are in. So your thoughts on this, sir?
It's a multi-layered question. Of course, you would expect the principal to ask that question. But let me try and address each one of those. First off, you have positioned it as a binary issue, this or that. There is some engineering training in that sort of a question, without a doubt. But anyway, my point is, I don't think it is completely binary. And I'll tell you why. I think there is a third option out there. Definitely the companies are going to come and ask to understand the comprehension level of each of the students, without a doubt. So it's important for you to get the fundamental concepts across to them. Now, some of that will be available in the syllabus. Some of that you might need to use external means. I'll give you a few examples. There are several trade magazines that are out there. Several. And some of them are written with a great deal of focus, which are research papers, so on and so forth, which I don't think a 19, 20, 21-year-old will understand. You will. Or even be interested in looking at. So, I would suggest trying to find publications such as MIT Tech Review, not our Manipal, with all respect to my dear friend Ranjan, not Manipal, MIT of Massachusetts, where my brother-in-law happens to work in the design lab. So, there is something called the MIT Tech Review. It costs a few dollars. I mean, Indian rupees, I think maybe 4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees a month. Okay, there is a magazine called Wired. There are other business-oriented magazines that are focused on the convergence of technology as well as real world. There is a website called Futurism. Please look it up. It is free. You can get it on your phones. FUTURISM, Futurism. These are coming out with concepts on an ongoing basis and also explaining esoteric concepts such as AI. By the way, I used to work in AI in early 1990s from Carnegie Mellon University. They are the same algorithms, the same mathematics, the same things, which are just being put into use today because A, there is more computing power, and B, there is more data. At that time, we didn't have the computing power and we did not have that level of data. So it was all in the head mathematically. Today, a computer can figure it out. But the ability to go and make these, to give them all these, what does it stand? For instance, you talked about HTML. Today, this is the exact problem. When we were originally doing HTML, they were true hypertext markup language, and we would actually work on how to build that HTML page. It was not so easy to do. Today you can drag and drop because there are so many of these things that happen. So there's another important point there which you have brought up, which you should make the students also understand, which is technology is a snake that is eating its own tail. Because whatever you're working on from a programming perspective today will be automated tomorrow. Or somebody will create a template for it. You can just drag and drop the template. I can build it, like you said. I also know how to build a web page in 15 minutes. If you look at our my venture capital firm web page, you will immediately see that I will not spend more than 15 minutes on it. It is so simple. But the point is, it is so easy to do. So I think spending some time with these sorts of outside publications, making it required reading at least for the faculty. You don't necessarily need to share it to the students, but giving it to them and making sure that they have the ability to read through these 3-4 types of things. I can give you more examples, but these 3-4 kinds of things makes the faculty significantly more capable of having these sorts of conversations with the students. So if madam here can say, this is what machine learning actually means. By the way, do you know Google has created something called BERT? And Microsoft owns something called GPT-3. And so now you don't need any longer people in Sri Lanka or India to label, oh, this is a stoplight, oh, this is a pedestrian, oh, this is a oncoming car, oh, this is a bicyclist, which is all required to be labeled for that artificial ML program to do the self-driving of the car. Today, GPT-3 or BERT can do it. If she understands how that's happening and how it has been put together, it's a 5-minute conversation in the classroom. And the moment that happens, you will see there will be people standing outside her classroom also to listen to her. This is how you have to equip the faculty. This is, in my humble opinion, this is how you should be equipping the faculty. Sorry, madam, I didn't mean to look.
When it comes to syllabus covering and being effective and equipping our students with the knowledge that's required to, make them go through the portals of our college in placements or something. So when we assess the students, we do that every year, sessionals and all that. We get to know there itself whether the student is able to go there or not. So we will need to, kind of penalize the students or either acknowledge that they've done good and then, take them to higher place. So anyway, what I wanted to ask is, can you show some, extra things that can be done there when we penalize or when we need to get them going?
I think one of the things that is very unfortunately is lacking in most educational systems globally, but especially ours in India, is
Well, one thing, sorry.
Please go ahead.
Penalizing is not the word I wanted to use.
Correcting.
Yeah, it was about identifying something that's deficient and then.
Understand, madam. So, here is the thing that I think is missing in all our education, which interestingly I have seen professionals pick up later on in their careers, because it is provided by employers sometimes. And this is a question of empowering the student, he or she, to arrive at self-understanding. Now, I'm not talking about anything spiritual here. I'm not talking about sitting and doing japa or doing this or doing that. That's a different discussion. There are several things that are out there, whether it's transactional analysis or n number of things that are out there that are available for people to be able to assess their capabilities alone themselves without necessarily having somebody else assess them. So the professor need not be assessing them. But if you access those tests, those personality development tests and others, very quickly they will understand what they are good at, what they are not good at, what kind of person they are, what kind of person they are not. There are several. Some they say, okay, you're an extrovert. Some say you're an introvert. Some say you're detail-oriented. Some say you're top. All these sorts of. Please find something. I mean, there are several that are out there, and their usefulness is varying. But you, as a teacher, can, again, it's available on the net. If you have got any questions, I will also try and put you 3 or 4 in your area. But I have found that it takes 4 things. And please, this is again a mnemonic, but I'm going to put it out. PRES. Short for leadership presence. If you want to have leadership presence, which is extremely important for anybody in a job, or for you when you're standing in front of your students, then you need these 4 things. First, you need to be present. You have to be here. If I'm thinking about my daughter and thinking, sorry, I'm not here, I'm not present. First and foremost, you need to be present. So what exercises mentally will keep you present here in the situation? Right now, I'm in this auditorium answering your question. I'm doing nothing else. If I try to get on my WhatsApp at the same time, or I try to find out whether there's coffee being made for me, or some other thing else, whatever it is that is going on, I have diverted my attention, I'm no longer present. Therefore, I have failed at what I'm trying to do here. The second, I have to reach out. If I don't reach out and I don't understand my audience, then again I have failed. I asked Mr. Pradeep yesterday when I saw this, I said, I don't think we need all this, Pradeep. It's just no, he said, no, it doesn't matter, so on. So it is only with faculty. That made me immediately, that was a reach out, so that I could understand who my audience was. If I was speaking to students, I would be speaking very differently. So I have reached out to understand who my audience is before I even start to talk. That I should be able to do in a meeting also. It doesn't have to be only in an address like this. It can be in which just a meeting with one more person. But trying to ask one or two questions so that you can understand where are they coming from, what is it that they understand. So this P, and the next is R, reach out. E, express yourself correctly, cogently, which I hope I am doing. Okay? And the last is S, which is what I started off with, which is self-knowledge. Know what you know. More importantly, know what you don't know. So if you don't know it, have no problem asking a question. If you know it, be able to explain it specifically, simply, easily. See this business of this problem, evidence, cause, impact recommendation that I gave, for instance, simple thing. This PRES, presence, reach out, express, know yourself. Can be taught at 7th standard level, no? But it is so easy. I can promise you this much. These two mnemonics you will not forget when you leave this. If you have been listening and taking notes and spending, which I hope your students do. But if they've been doing that, they will remember that much. So that you have to be able to express yourself also correctly. These are the few things that I would suggest. If you give them that capability of self-knowledge, then you don't have to be in a situation where you are binarily saying, okay, you have passed this, or because that is only a body of knowledge that just shows whether or not they have understood that body of knowledge, which anyway they know. You are going to give them 50%, 60%, 80%, depending on how well they have completed the paper. There is a very, very clear evidence of how they have understood that or not understood that. That is very clear. This is not so clear. This understanding of self is not so clear. If you provide them this capability, they achieve significant heights very early in whatever their profession may be. I hope that helps to answer your question.
As you have rightly said, most of the updating with the present technology very seldom happens with most of the faculty members. And very few of those who update their technology and try to disseminate it to students, they get disheartened by the fact that students do not receive it. They feel that it's not in the syllabus. As a principal was putting it out, it's not in the syllabus. Why are you troubling us by teaching out of the syllabus thing? This is the main challenge that we face. As I said, very few of us do that exercise, and the result is also very disheartening. So how to address this?
With all due respect, I'll give you a very simple answer for that. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. And you will come up with whatever it is that you require. I'm sorry I made my answer so simple, but really that's the precise answer for that situation.
With the real world examples, may I request Mr. Pradeep Pai to enlighten us with his thoughts.
I'm very happy today to be here because I have some attachment with Canara Engineering College. This college was born in the year 2001, correct. In 2000, when I moved to Mangalore, Shri R.V. Deshpande was in Mangalore. I had hosted a party in Manjaron. That time, Kepul Dinesh Naik sir explained Deshpande that we would like to start engineering college and we want a permission. So then almost 6-7 months I was instrumental to work for this permission along with Sri Ramesh Kamath in Bangalore on the instance of Sri Kepul Dinesh Naik. Later on, after I came for the foundation, I came for the inauguration also along with Sri Deshpande. Very nice setup, very nice infrastructure then. After that, I could not make it. However, I was disturbing Ranganath Bhatt or MS Pai every time for at least 7-8 engineering seats every year from North Canara. I hail from North Canara. So every year I used to get the seats here. Now coming to the competition, as Sidh Pai mentioned, I always believe there should be a strong competition in anything. Here we have in and around 25 engineering colleges in and around Mangalore. We should be number one in anything. So we can be number one. How we can be number one? I feel in my college or my school days, I don't remember the infrastructure or the building or anything. I remember the teacher or my lecturer. In my MGM college, I remember Dr. Karki or C.A. Bhatt, who taught us. In engineering, Sandeep Naik, or good lecturers who taught us. So, even the hardware is built by the management, the software is with all you faculty persons. So, it's very important that entire faculty team should stand up, should come back to the competition and take a better, I'm telling you, oath that will be number one in next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Because see, affordable education, that tagline, honestly I don't like. We can change the tagline. We should give the best education. My son went to US for a bachelor's to Philadelphia, Temple University. For US citizens, they are charging $12,000 per year. For Indians, they are charging $24,000. And he told, oh, your son got good marks, I will give you 6,000 founder scholarship. So the way the Americans sell, we should learn. If good students are there, we will definitely give founder scholarship instead of reducing the fees. Once we reduce the fees, the general mentality of the student or the people who are coming in will not be A grade. We want A grade students. The moment fees are good, people will think it's a good. The moment I price my ice cream below than ideal or below natural, they will feel my ice cream is inferior. So, quality, always we should sell at a proper price or premium. We never compete. Even though I came to Mangalore, it was very tough to enter into ice cream business, as you rightly said, because Ideal was dominating this market. I thought what we can do, Ideal was in parlors. So I thought let us not go into parlors, go into distribution model. So never we competed on the price. We always complemented each other. So we kept the price same, or some of the items I kept the price more. So I'm not believing in selling anything at a cheaper rate. Good students will definitely, management will rethink again to how to do it. See, hardware we can always do. Management can do this best of the hardware, whatever you suggest. But end of the day, software is more important. That is the education or to impart to the students. Sorry if I am hurt you. Again, I thank Sidh Pai for giving us an opportunity to interact with all faculty and part of the management. Anytime we are here, TV Mohandas Pai also told last meeting, one meeting we management had with Shri TV Mohandas Pai, who is mentor for all of us in education, scholarships, what we are doing in Word Konkani Center also. We are also giving every year about 200 to 220 students, mainly engineering students, scholarships, and we are giving them a Kshamata training, and we see that they are employed in good companies. So, TV Mohandas Pai is also with us. He has a lot of affinity for Canara institutions because his father was a student of Canara institutions. So with this, I conclude my 2 words and thank you all again with my conclusion.
The Secretary of Canara High School Association, Mr. Rangnath Bhatt, to present a memento to Mr. Siddharth Pai and Mr. Pradeep Pai. Thank you so much, sir. I request sir to conclude the session.
My dear members of the Canara family, my children find it very, very difficult to imagine how life was when I was born, maybe in the 60s. And when my father used to talk about, during his younger days, when, he used to talk in terms of pies and annas, I also found it, what is he talking about? But, it is also very difficult for us to think into the future. So sometimes I wonder how our founder, Ammembal Siddharth Pai, you just imagine what Mangalore was 131 years ago. How could he ever think of, thinking that education is the only thing that is going to, make people go places and the entire generation will change. And today, when I won't say that you are our guest, you are a part of Canara. When you came back to Canara, I thought a spark of our founder has come back to Canara. Thank you very much. The TV Raman Pai Hall was gifted to Canara in memory of TV Raman Pai by his wife, Srimati Vimala Pai, and his son, Mr. TV Mohandas Pai. It's very, very difficult to, approach him, talk to him, but he has got a soft corner for Canara. And we wanted his expertise, we want to go aggressive. And Mr. Naresh and I contacted Mr. Pradeep Pai, and somehow we got an appointment, and we thought we would get about 5 minutes of his time. But then he went on to talk to us for the next 2 hours. And in the middle of the time that we spent together, he also called Sid Pai and talked to him in front of us, saying that your presence in Canara is very, very important. Because it is your great-grandfather who started this institution. And the Raman Pai the TV Raman Pai Hall that I was talking about, it was inaugurated in 2003. And one of the inaugurators was the father of Sid Pai, Dr. A.R. Pai. So there is a very, very strong connection between Sid Pai and Canara. Sir, both of you, Mr. Pradeep Pai and Mr. Siddharth Pai, we want you to be with us, and maybe you should become the members of our board of governors. And we have a lot of doubts. And we want you to be with us, guide us into making this institution an institution of excellence. Because we know that excellence is not a destination, it's a journey. And every now and then we want to excel ourselves. And today, I don't know, they might not have asked you a lot of questions, but otherwise, maybe, what happened is, it's been a long time since we are having, visionaries, 2 visionaries put together here. Maybe they were, that's what. That's why maybe they did not, and we are honored by your presence. And I don't know what to say. I will just say, I would like to thank you very much, and Pradeep Pai for having come here, and definitely we want you to be with us to guide us. Thank you very much.
All the faculty and staff who are gathered here, thank you one and all.